Welcome to Tourism Insights episode 1. Today's hot topic is issuing driving licenses for the visitors to Sri Lanka. We have to discuss whether it is legal or illegal. That is one thing that we have to discuss. The second thing is actually whether we have to look at if it is happening in the other part of the world or not. And if that is happening, how does that happen? Thirdly, whether it is suitable for tourism industry in Sri Lanka or not. And fourth, how we are going to make it suitable if it is a mandatory requirement. Thank you for joining today. I am Rohan Ratnayaka. Let's discuss about all these four insights. So, issuing driving licenses in the country is legal or illegal? It is obviously legal because there are a lot of tourists who are driving their vehicles. Even if you go today to most part of the country, you go to Allah, there are tourists who are driving tuk-tuks and other vehicles. You go to Arugambe, there are tourists who are driving their vehicles. You go to Mirissa and all other parts, there are tourists who you can see that they drive vehicles. So do they have international licenses or do they have domestic licenses? Have they converted them to local licenses? So those are questions that we have to ask whenever we see the current situation today. So giving the license is a mandatory requirement for the people who are driving vehicles in Sri Lanka. Otherwise they can't drive the vehicle. So definitely they should be given the licenses. So it is not illegal and is a mandatory requirement, yes. Then we have to look at whether it is happening in the other part of the world. You go to India, you can get the driving license for 1,000 rupees, that is for 1 year. So if you have a domestic driving license and that you want to convert into a local Indian driving license, you have to pay 1,000 rupees and convert it to a local license, and you can drive for 1 year, and after that you have to renew it. And if you think about Malaysia, you have to spend 120 ringgits, which is around 10,000 rupees in Sri Lankan money, LKR. So you have to spend that amount to get a driving license for 3 months, and you can definitely drive the vehicle. So you can convert your domestic license to a local license in Malaysia and drive vehicles for 3 months. If you go to Dubai, they charge 4,500 dirham to 7,000 dirham, which is a much higher amount than all other countries, and they give 1 year driving license and we have to renew it. So around the world, countries have adopted these licenses, driving license procedures. So applying the same things in Sri Lanka is not a big issue, but we have to just see now whether they have done it correctly or not. This is something that we have to discuss. This is where I think something has gone wrong in tourism industry. So what has happened now? When it comes to Sri Lanka tourism industry, the decisions have to be taken with the support of all other stakeholders. Yes. So you have to get the opinion from the other stakeholders because they have been doing a lot of things for the industry and they have been suffering during the last 30 years. So we have to take those things into consideration when we are implementing decisions. So that is one thing that we have to think. And the second thing is actually whether the amount that we charge is sufficient, because if you want really to encourage the licenses for the foreigners, then you should have a lower. rate. If you want to give the licenses and stop unauthorized or illegal driving in Sri Lanka, then you have to have a higher rate, higher price. So which we are not clear about the government strategy towards giving the tourism license, the driving licenses. So this is where I think we are stuck. So the government is not clear which strategy they have used, whether they are going to allow the or encourage the foreigners to take the licenses in Sri Lanka and drive their vehicles, or whether they are going uh, to encourage the current the tourists who are driving vehicles illegally to get the licenses and stop all these illegal driving by the tourists in Sri Lanka. So there are two strategies, but we are not clear which strategy the government wanted to execute. So that is where we are stuck. And thirdly, when we were taking those decisions, have we ever spoken to the other stakeholders in the industry? So that is another one. We have never spoken to the stakeholders. We have not taken their point of view also. So there are things that have gone wrong at the time of decision making, at the time of uh, pricing, at the time of implementation. So that's why we have a lot of issues at the moment, and there are a lot of discussions that are going on against this. The third point, if we want to make it suitable for the country and if it is mandatory, how are we going to do this? This is what we have to discuss. So the fourth point is actually, now if we want to do this, we want to have a better strategy for issuing the driving license, and we have to have an objective for that. What is the objective? Whether we are going to encourage the tourists to get the driving licenses and drive around the country freely, that is that the strategy, or is that the objective that we have, or are we going to encourage the tourists who wants to drive in Sri Lanka illegally to acquire the tourism licenses easily but paying a higher rate, right? So that they will, yes, they will obviously, they will have to take those licenses. So my opinion is to have a higher rate, probably 50,000, maybe 75,000, to acquire the driving license in Sri Lanka based on the difficulty of driving in Sri Lankan roads. Because if it is easy, then you can charge it will charge an easy amount. And also if the road net traffic network is good, if we have good connections, then you can't have a charge a higher rate. Obviously in Sri Lanka, the road network is very difficult and very very challenging, therefore you can charge a higher rate. And at the same time, you can ask the vehicle suppliers to charge a higher deposit for the vehicles, and that should be a mandatory requirement. So if that is that can be done, probably you can encourage the people who wants to drive, or the rich people, who are the people who want to drive, to have those licenses for those prices. And at the same time, you can have different categories for tuk-tuks, for jeeps, for bikes, and for other cars, so and so forth. And we can have different prices for those. If we have those kind of strategy, if we have a fixed or if we have a clear objective for doing that, probably we can solve this. Otherwise, there will be a lot of difficulties, lot of issues, lot of questions being asked about the current strategy, current implementation of the driving licenses. So it is the tourism insights opinion about the issuing driving licenses for the visitors into Sri Lanka, and we are here to just give you an opinion. It is not our fine no decision. We are not the decision makers. So there are decision makers. Decision makers can correct if we are correct. Otherwise, they can go on with their current strategy and face the difficulties or the issues that are coming on their way. Thank you.